everybody, my name's Kelly. Thank you for watching my channel. I'm here to do what I'm going to call a quarterly wrap-up, as ever, excuse the road noise. I'm going to call it a quarterly wrap-up because, as you may have already gathered, I'm not going to be keeping up with the monthly TBRs and wrap-up videos. Not to mention I haven't really read that much this year. I've read 10 books so far, and usually I would aim to do like 5 or 6 a month, which would be a nice wrap-up. So the 10 books I've read, been quite a lot of non-fiction, and in fact January was entirely a non-fiction month. Starting off with Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I don't have a physical copy of this because I listened to the audiobook, and I really recommend the audiobook specifically because Elizabeth Gilbert, who read the one that I listened to, has just such a nice voice for audiobooks. And this book is about creative living and kind of how to live creatively and be a healthy creative. One of my favorite chapters in there talks about the myth of the tortured artist, how you can't be great and deep without some kind of trauma or suffering, which she completely disagrees with. There's also a very interesting chapter about shit sandwiches, basically choosing the career that you love so much that you can deal with the shit sandwiches or the crap that comes with it, which for Elizabeth Gilbert would be, you know, the odd negative review, or apparently lots of people who read Eat, Pray, Love told her that that was their book and they were intending to write it. But anyway, Big Magic has been the best book so far this year, easily a 5 out of 5 stars. And I also went to see her speak at the Seymour Centre in Sydney, and I have a confirmed crush on this woman, so as soon as I can, I'm going to buy the hardback of it, maybe for Christmas. Next, from a 5-star to a 2-star rating, I listened to A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Again, I don't have the physical for this, but what I will show you as representation is A Course in Miracles, because A Return to Love is essentially Marianne Williamson's interpretation and simplification of this spiritual text. I haven't read this yet, and I only own it because I got it for $5 a few months ago, and it's certainly worth that. Return to Love talks basically about the importance of living a loving, forgiving, and compassionate life, which I don't disagree with any of that stuff, but it's, you know, who does disagree with that? It's all stuff we know. There was nothing new. And considering how highly rated it is, I was disappointed. And maybe I'm doing it a disservice because I haven't read this. Maybe if I had, that one would make more sense and resonate more deeply. But also I followed Elizabeth Gilbert's dulcet tones with Marianne Williamson reading this one, and there was no comparison. So that was a 2 out of 5 stars. Next, a little bit embarrassed about this one. And in fact, the one I'm going to talk to you about, I have lent to a friend. This one is the sequel. So the one I'm telling you about is Why Men Love Bitches. And this is the sequel, Why Men Marry Bitches. Now, obviously it's a really obnoxious title, and that's why I resisted it for so long. But once you realize that, what's she called? Sherry Argov is the author for this. Once you realize that she doesn't mean bitch the way that you and I think of as bitch, you know, like high maintenance and stroppy. Says here, when I use the word bitch, the woman I'm describing is not cruel or mean. Throughout this book, as well as in my first release, Why Men Love Bitches, I use bitch in a tongue-in-cheek way. The term is intended to be satirical and does not take itself too seriously. I use it to describe a strong woman who has her own identity and is secure with who she is. She is plenty happy giving him space because she enjoys having hers. She is clear about what she will or will not accept. She'll back away at the slightest whiff of disrespect, and this makes her more exciting to a man, not less. So still, you know, it's another motivational book. Actually, the first two were Big Magic was motivation, and then Marianne Williamson, The Return to Love, that was New Age. Again, we're back to relationship subcategory of motivation. you know, you've got to be a certain type to read it. I genuinely enjoyed the first one. Haven't read this one, but hopefully I will enjoy it also. And the reason I picked it up was because I had so many customers trying to find it in the store, and I'd already put it back under my name, so I thought better snap it up fast. Entering February, we go to my first fiction read of the year, which was The Fifth Wave by Yancey. I read this because I wanted to watch the film, and in the end, as ever, the book was much better than the film. It's about an alien invasion, and it's told in a non-linear way. So this is primarily about the fifth wave, but it flashes back to previous waves. And I understood the need for that method of storytelling, but I really wanted to get on with the present story, so it did irritate me sometimes. I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I still will read the sequel, The Infinite Sea, which I have over there on the mantle. It's about a girl called Cassie, or short for Cassiopeia, and she, by necessity, becomes this really strong female character that I really enjoyed. There's also a character called Ethan that I loved. And Ben, I really liked the character of Ben Parrish in this, but then the casting for him in the film was very odd. He had none of that killer smile wearing jockish image that he at least had in the beginning of the book in the flashbacks. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for The Fifth Wave. Next, I don't have a physical copy of The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. This is the second book in the Remnant Chronicles, and the first book, Kiss of Deception, which I read last year, that was a 5-star read for me. This one I'm giving 4 out of 5 stars. It's still incredibly well written and really enjoyable, but just by necessity, the characters in this are more stifled and more kind of oppressed, so it didn't have that exhilarating sense of freedom that the first one had. In the first one, the characters are kind of escaping quite rigid lifestyles for a while, so there's this real sense of possibility and adventure, so at least in the first half. So I did miss that, but so excited by this series, or is it trilogy? Yeah, and also this is one of the few where a love triangle is not a bad thing, because in this, the girl is very clear about the fact that she's only actually interested in the one guy, but because of the situation she's in, she is kind of manipulating the other one that's interested in her. So it's maintaining the appearance so far of a love triangle, but not actually the reality of one, which is good because I think we're all sick of it. Next book, another non-fiction, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. I do have this one. And as you can see, many flags have been applied. I loved this. I was reading a chapter every morning for a few weeks, and it really kind of made my mornings. It's exactly what it says on the tin, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. One of the most powerful self-help guides ever written. And I would say one of the most helpful self-help guides. There's kind of a dozen pieces of advice in each chapter, and the chapters are short. So that's a lot of advice, a lot of practical, implementable advice. And even though it's another one kept in the motivation section, it's very, very psychological. So I wouldn't let the motivational side of it put you off. And I think I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars because I was umming and ahhing a bit. I didn't like the fact that he kept going back to religion and to God. He didn't push it, otherwise I would have just stopped reading it. But certainly towards the last third, there was a bit more mention, and I could have done without it. So following on from that, I decided to try some more fiction and another audio book, which was Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. And it was a 2 out of 5 stars. I really didn't enjoy it. I don't know perhaps if I would have enjoyed it more if I had read it, as it was. Hearing the dialogue aloud was incredibly cringeworthy. It's about a girl whose name I've already repressed and a boy called Travis, who's presented in the beginning as your typical bad boy, but he turns out quite quickly to be fairly sweet, I think. And then you uncover more about the girl, which I didn't expect, so it did surprise me, but it was just overall way too cringy, especially the fact that Travis, every time Travis spoke, he prefaced it with, I need. Like, I need you to listen to me. I need you to calm down. I need this. And I guess that was supposed to make him sound like manly and strong and make us swoon, but he just sounded a bit creepy, and I wasn't feeling it. I have read, though, that she gets better, and Hopeless is one of the earlier ones, if not the earliest. So, I might read Slammed. Slammed sounds interesting. I think that's like beat poetry, so that's an interesting concept. Might give it a go. Next, I took a holiday to Jarvis Bay for the weekend, which was amazing, and I took care to choose suitably holiday vibe reads. The first of which was Tracey Garvis-Graves' On the Island. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I would have rated it as highly if I hadn't read it on a beautiful beach, but as it was the perfect thing for me. It's about a 30-year-old female teacher who is kind of trying to sort out her life over this summer away, teaching a 16-year-old boy in the Maldives. And they travel separately from his family to the island, and on the way the plane goes down and they wind up stranded. And it takes place over a period of years. So as you can imagine, their roles in each other's lives change. In the beginning, they're teacher, student, then, you know, as the only thing to cling to on this island, they have to become friends, obviously, but they become more. So it's potentially a bit inappropriate, although I would assure you that nothing intimate happens with this kid until he's like nearly 19. So I didn't feel too affronted by it, and I really enjoyed it. And if you're going on holiday somewhere, this is the read. Next, again, carrying on with the water theme, Lorali by Laura Dockrill. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. To my mind, the best mermaid books are still the Ingo Chronicles by Helen Dunmore, and they're set in my neck of the woods back home in the UK as well. I mean, this is set in Brighton, but the Ingo Chronicles is set in the southwest where I'm from. This is about a mermaid called Lorali who is washed up ashore, at which point she has legs, and the story explains why. And it's about a boy called Rory, who is just a regular human. And it's also told from a third perspective, which is that of the ocean herself, or itself. Or it does seem quite feminine to me. So interesting concepts. I did like the 3 voices, but the voice of the ocean was a little bit touch and go for me. This is a very unapologetic book, which is great, but at the same time, I needed some justification for example, there's this group of people called the Abelgares, and I think they were once, or they are regular humans from our world, but they're so strange. They seem otherworldly in this, and they have strange characteristics like incredible hygiene and fashion sense, and they make their own clothes, and they live on board this beautifully well, not personified, but this beautifully characterized boat called the Liberty, ship called the Liberty. It's a houseboat. Really enjoyed it, didn't think it was perfect, would still read more by Laura Dockrill. I appreciated all the dark fairy tale elements. The representation of sirens in that book will creep you out a lot. Lastly, I read Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. This is the first in a trilogy of what is currently trilogies, but I think there's going to be a 4th trilogy maybe, so it's ongoing, and you've probably heard all about it before. It's about a girl called Yelena who is waiting essentially to be executed, but she receives a reprieve. And to have this reprieve, she needs to become the court taster, basically, and to sample the commander's food for poison. So she's trained in that by a very interesting character called Valek, and that is where the subtle romance comes in, very subtle. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And then I went and met the author, which was great fun. I haven't hauled that book yet, so look out for a haul video coming soon in which I do. Those are the 10 books I've read in January, February, and March. As ever, this video is too long, but I'm signing off here and now. Please watch the next one and comment below if you've read any of these, particularly what you thought about Lorali, because it had the potential to be even better than it was, and I just found it a bit weird. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.